so excited that you guys are back. We've got Kari with us, she's my leader. Some of you guys got to watch either the recording last week or got to watch this live, but Kari is going to be, just really helping us launch the India market well. When it comes to learning about Doterra, when it comes to like starting our own businesses, we want to be turning to someone who's already kind of done that successfully. And so we're just really grateful for, just the success that Kari already has that we are able to learn from. And then, just starting a new market in a country. I'm just really excited to learn from her. So last week we covered a lot of good stuff. And if you didn't get to watch the first week, then let me know and I'll make sure you have the link for that. But this will kick off week 2.
Awesome. Yes, it was great last week. I really enjoyed sharing all that with you guys. And I know it was a lot. This is a crash course, so hopefully the name infers that is maybe a fire hose of information possibly, but it's just really meant to give you a good overview. I don't think you should have mastered anything, of course, by watching the first training. And we're going to continue with some of the things that you will need to know and dig more into, let's say. So just teaching a class and how to sample and all those types of things. We did cover over half of the information last week. So I think we'll have maybe more time for just questions and conversation at the end. I really loved that. That was almost my favorite part when we just kind of had open conversation. So I hope we get to have a little bit more of that this time. But before we get started, just those of you that were on last week, I was curious if you had any, sometimes it takes me a little bit to process things and then think about things more. Did you have any additional takeaways or just kind of thoughts about the training last week? And just also wondering about the homework we gave you. No worries if you were on last week or if you haven't done it yet, but just wondering if you had come up with some names on the list yet, and just curious about that kind of before we jump in today. I know Roma was on, and okay, Lauren was too. Not to put anybody on the spot, but if you can unmute yourself and share, or even in the chat.
Roma, did you have any thoughts come up over this past week as you guys have been, I know you guys have been sampling and talking to a lot of friends this week. So how did that go? Or did you put into practice anything from last week?
That's all right. She might not be where she can unmute herself. Hey.
Same. I'm in the car, so my video is going to be off. But I was able to enroll 2 people since we last chatted, so that was great.
That's awesome.
So I'm working through the list, but this has been really helpful. So thank you.
Good. I'm glad. That's amazing. Congratulations on that. It's exciting to obviously learn yourself, but then when you get to help somebody else, that just makes it even more fun to me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Well, I'm just going to dive right on in, and hopefully maybe we can have more conversation at the end. So I'm going to share my screen here. And, okay. All right. You can see that? We good? Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about how to teach the class. And again, this is meant to be somewhat of an overview and just kind of hit the high points. But obviously, I don't expect you to know how to teach a class after this training, but yet to give you some good things to think about, and hopefully so that it's not so overwhelming. Because I know that whenever I got started, I shared a little bit about this in the last video, but I was extremely, extremely nervous to teach my first class. I had never been to a class in person. I just kept watching this one class that they sent me. I think that everybody watched back then because it was just the best example that we had, and nobody taught online classes a whole lot. So it was actually a recording of somebody teaching in person. And I remember I memorized everything, and I thought, well, here we go. I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. And I do not recommend memorizing a class, because then when you get up there, you like forget a piece of it, you just feel like a complete failure. So we're going to talk about a little, you'll kind of learn how to maybe make it a little bit easier on yourself. But all that to say is the first one might not be exactly what you want it to be, but just keep going and know that I'm sure those people at the first class I did learn something, which is really the goal anyway. It's not to be perfect. And you can see after 9 years of teaching, you do get more and more comfortable in front of people. And not that I'm perfect now, but I'm a lot more comfortable than I was back then. But it just takes repetition. That's what I tell everybody. So here are a few just little tidbits for a successful class. Really, the class is all about the experience. It's not necessarily about sharing all the knowledge that you can about essential oils, because let's be honest, there is a lot that you could share at a class because there is just so much to learn. But you don't want to overwhelm people with that, because it would be overwhelming if you tried to take somebody from not knowing hardly anything about essential oils to knowing everything that you know, right? That you feel like they should know. That's just a lot. And so it's really more about the experience, especially in an in-person class, to let them experience and use the oils. And far and away, in-person is the best option, but I understand COVID really put a wrench in that. So, I mean, I live in an area that is very open to in-person things, but I understand that everybody's not like that. And so just know that in-person is always going to be best, but you can definitely still provide a great experience in class for someone online or even over the phone, or however, you can interact with people. But an experience is very powerful. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that, not in a class atmosphere. So next is just develop an introduction that catches your audience's attention. And, this doesn't have to be like somebody else's that you have, maybe you've watched a class and you like the way somebody did an introduction, or maybe you didn't. I think that it's very important that you make it something that is unique to you and that you feel excited about sharing with the audience. And a lot of times it's your personal experience, perhaps, or I just really want you to think about an introduction as something that is sort of an icebreaker for the class, is meaningful, but it's also something that is not just scripted, that feels authentic to you, because I think that's important, because you kind of do want to set the tone for a class whenever you do the introduction. And if you're somebody that loves to have fun, like maybe it's a joke, or maybe it's just, it's something that kind of breaks the ice that way, or maybe you just love telling stories. Maybe it's just a great story about an oil experience you've had. There's just so many different things, and we have different personalities. So really just make it something that is very authentic to you. That's the best advice I can give you on that. So next, keep it short, stay on script, and don't lose your audience. I can tell you from personal experience that whenever people start zoning out and you still have to finish the class, it's not real fun. So the shorter that you can keep a class, the better. Now, that being said, of course, you don't want it to be 15 minutes. That would probably be a little short, but you don't want the class to go over an hour at the most, just because it's just a lot for people to take in, and they do start zoning out because there's only so much they can comprehend in that time period. So having some sort of script, not that you necessarily memorize, because I mentioned that might not be the best approach, but just having like talking points basically, and knowing the flow of the class, knowing that, okay, well, if you get off on a tangent, you're going to get right back on the next point. That's really important, so that you don't lose your audience, because just as an audience member, you kind of want to know what the flow of the class is going to be and what to expect, so that you can know, okay, well, she's halfway done, possibly. We're getting towards the end. I kind of, as an audience member, like to know that. It kind of keeps me on track mentally. So just having those talking points, even on the sheet in front of you, is important, rather than sitting there trying to read off a script. Try to have the talking points so that you can, okay, next I'm going to talk about lemon. Well, I'm just going to share my experiences with it. It kind of makes it easier on yourself, so you don't have to memorize things. 45 minutes of actual teaching is really a good time frame for a class. Now, of course, the class in its entirety is not going to be done in 45 minutes, unless it might be online. Okay, it might be only 45 minutes, But in person, you're going to have time for people to get there, to mingle, to have that interaction beforehand. But the actual teaching part will only be 45 minutes. And then, of course, afterwards, there'll be more conversation and wrapping up and getting people started and things like that. So an actual in-person class normally takes at least an hour and a half, more like 2 hours. I can get an in-person class done in about 2 hours, just so that you know. But for the actual teaching, 45 minutes. So easiest thing to do is to really use the class in the box that Doterra has provided for us that we can purchase. It's a very good price point, and the materials are really perfect for carrying somebody from a class all the way to other experiences after the class as well. I'm not sure what the availability is going to be as far as where you guys are located, but of course, right now you're having to purchase things and getting them shipped to the US anyway. So there are other ways that you can go about getting materials for a class. And to be honest, you really don't have to have anything for a class except oils. Oils would be really great. But even a teaching handout, like, you don't actually have to have that. So just know that this is great, but you don't 100% have to have it to do a class. So how to close. Closing is usually the hardest part of the class for many people, because it kind of transitions into, okay, everybody's really wanting to learn, and then you're like, well, now I'm going to ask them to buy something. So that's usually when people change their tone. That's when they start not making eye contact. Like, the person that's teaching, I'm saying that's kind of when things could start to go a little bit different than the rest of the class. So just knowing and being more confident with how you're going to close is probably a really great idea, because you do want to feel confident with that. And you want to make closing not really necessarily just about getting them to buy, but you have to keep in the back of your mind, okay, well, if you've given them all this information, letting them go home without any intention of getting this into their home, what did they learn for? And I don't mean that in an ugly way, but you just have to think about it as, I'm not just trying to get somebody to buy something. I'm trying to get them to help them use this in their home for all the issues that, maybe they have shared with you before during the class. Their child can't sleep, or they're having digestive issues, or whatever it might be. You just have to remember, they're not going to get any relief from that if they don't get these products to actually put to use. So that's just the way I like to think about it, because it takes the pressure off it. I mean, I'm not the one that it's all on to make sure that they purchase. You've given them the information, and now you're just helping them get these into their home. So being really confident with that is important. So paint the big picture, because sometimes people really look at oils, and it might not be the same where you guys are, because in the US, we're a lot more reliant on the medical system probably than India is. They're way more open to natural things, which I love. So painting the bigger picture might look a little bit different than just, trying to help them understand why it's really important that they live a non-toxic lifestyle, and why they need, should want to, or it would be great to use natural medicine instead of modern medicine. It might be a little bit different there, but just painting the bigger picture could be for you guys about why Doterra versus other brands. But it's important to help them see the bigger picture, because they might just think, okay, well, I just need that one oil because I have these digestive issues, and if I can just get rid of that, then that's all I need them for. So helping them to realize, oh, these are going to be used in hundreds of different ways around your home, not just for this one issue that you might want to try them for. That is really important in a class to help them see that. Okay, so let's talk about the oil experience. And again, just make sure if you have any questions or comments you want to share, just put them in the chat, or you can even unmute yourself. Totally fine. So oil experience, I mentioned a class is obviously that's a great experience, but helping somebody to have an experience even outside of the class is really important, because really it's not up to us to sell the oils. It's really up to us necessarily to be the messenger. Oils really do speak for themselves. If you can just help somebody to have an experience, a lot of times you really don't need to do much other than that, because the oils are powerful and they work. So getting them on people is going to be the best form of sales that you can do. So what about an oil experience prior to a class? This is really important, but I will say that it's not, that I've had several people come to a class, have never tried oils. Maybe the class has been online, whatever the reason was, and they still purchased oils. I had never tried oils and purchased oils. So I don't think that this is like the end all be all. You have to get, let somebody have an experience before a class, but it is better. I mean, it's always better for them to have an experience so that they are coming into a class, whether it's in person or online, and they've already had that experience. They already are coming knowing, well, I want to get something like this lavender already helped me sleep. So they're already kind of bought in that way, if you will. So it just kind of helps to let them have more experiences and more touches, if you will, before a class. So if you were going to provide samples, how would you do that? So I always like to, depending on where the people are. So if you're mailing samples, you probably want to give them a few more samples to try versus just one. But if I had a neighbor or somebody that lived close to me that I saw a good bit, I'm only going to give them one sample because I'm going to be able to give them another sample easily if they needed one. So say I give them lavender for sleep and they're like, yeah, this really isn't doing much for me. Well, then I'm just going to be like, okay, well, just give me that sample back and I'm going to give you Serenity to try instead. So you keep giving them different ones to try to a certain point. I mean, we're not talking about 10 samples here, probably up to 3 or 4, but they're most likely going to have a positive experience with 3 to 4 oils for one issue. You really want to zone in on one issue to give a sample for, especially if they're in person, because you want them to have a positive experience before they come to a class. And so trying to see what is their most pressing issue that you could give a sample for, that they would see results fairly quickly. That's going to be your goal with this. Now, I know it might be different if you have to mail and they're like, I have sleep issues, but I also have a headache, headaches quite often. Well, you might send them lavender and peppermint and maybe one more, just so they can have a variety of things to try. So it kind of just depends, but that's sort of the whole premise behind sending people samples. So of course you want to provide instructions on how to use these, because that you don't want to just get the samples and then be like, I don't know how to use these, and they just sit on their dresser or whatnot. So just provide some written instructions, but I also like to make it more personal. And so you could provide some written instructions, but then also maybe send them a voice text or say, call me when you get these. You can kind of walk people through it. It's obviously best if you can hand these off in person, because you could show them how to use it and tell them more about it in person. That's the best way. But just trying to make it personalized is always something that I seek to do. I really do like providing them with the samples and also including some sort of little booklet that has more information on oils, because you want them to know more about the oil that they got. But you also, while they're looking through that book, they can also see, goodness, like I can use peppermint for all of these other different things. Or gosh, I didn't know about lavender. You can use it for bug bites. Like they're going to learn different things about other oils as well. So a lot of people love to look through this little booklet and find out way more things that they could use oils about than what you're giving the sample for. So here it says a living magazine. That's not a bad idea. I personally like to give something called an A to Z booklet, and I don't know the availability of what you guys can get, but there's a lot of different options here. You just want to give them something that they can learn a little bit more about oils with. It's not too expensive, because again, you're giving them this for free. So these booklets that I'm mentioning are like $1 a piece. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about cost. And that isn't a must, but it is really helpful. So that's just something that I've done. And of course, you want to give your contact information. And this is more for somebody that might be you're not friends with, or you just met or something like that. Just make sure that you have their contact information and that they have yours, because sometimes when you just give them yours, you want to have both for them to have yours and you to have theirs. Hopefully that makes sense. There might be questions about this as you go. I'm sure there will be, but this at least gives you a little overview of what that looks like. Okay, so inviting. So this would be best case scenario. Best case scenario that you gave them a sample and they've had a great experience, and then you're going to invite them to a class. Great time frame would be 3 days, 3 to 5 days, I would say, because this really is why you want to think about having classes once a week. And that might not be just your classes. It might just be, a community class, or maybe you are having your own classes at some point, whatever it might be. You want to invite them to a class pretty soon after they have that experience, because they're excited. So it just makes sense to get them to a class as soon as you could. This could be obviously a class or a one-on-one. A one-on-one just means that you're meeting with them at a coffee shop, or maybe even over the phone or Zoom or whatever it might be. Either way works. If you just really feel like you're going to love one-on-ones, like, just start there. I just am such a big fan of, like, we need to do this however it comes naturally to us. Not saying we don't need to get out of our comfort zone, but at first, I just think it's important to think about how you feel like you want to communicate with people best, whether it's in a class or a one-on-one setting. Hand-delivered invitation is best. Obviously, a phone call or a voice text or whatever it might be. I know that we are just so apt to text now. So I totally get that a phone call might be like not how you and your people connect. So just try to make it as personal as possible, whatever you do. That Facebook messages on here, just make it personalized, whichever one of these that you choose. And then just remind them about the class. So how busy we all are. I mean, I'm busy, y'all are busy. Like, everybody could say that we're probably busy. We have a lot going on. People need reminders. So however you can, if you need a reminder to remind them, whatever you need to do, just make sure that you do remind them before the class. On here, it says a 48-hour call reminder. Could be a text. I'm not saying it has to be a call, but just a reminder. And then a 4-hour text reminder before the class, because a lot of people don't make up their mind if they're coming to something until the day of. So just reminding them 2 days prior, and then 4 hours prior. Just some good time frames for you, but nonetheless, remind them about the class and tell them how excited you are to see them. Okay, so this is just a little bit about what comes in a class in the box. And again, you're going to get a good a good mixture of things that you need for a class and beyond. You got sample files in there. You have a tear sheet. You're going to have some of those live guides that you could give out with samples, or you could give out at the class to people that enroll and get started, because that's going to be great for after they enroll. When you do a wellness consult, you help them to be able to use what they have. That live guide is really great for that. A build guide also. So if you want to speak with someone about how they could share or build a business to get their oils paid for, or to replace or supplement some of their income, that guide is really great. So this just gives you an idea of what comes in that. Those keychains are really great too. So you can put samples in there. Okay, so this is just this is a natural solutions handout that a lot of people use at classes. There are so many handouts that you could use, but this is just an kind of a good flow of a class. And most handouts are going to follow this flow. You talk about maybe how you have 2 different approaches to healthcare, modern and natural, and then you talk about what oils are, how to use them, why you might want to use them, and then you kind of go into the 3 ways to use oils, and then talk about probably the top 10 oils. That's the flow of a basics class most of the time. So that they go home with, obviously, whatever handout they got at the class, they're going to be able to take that home. A living magazine or the living guides is a great thing for them to take home, because they're just going to continue to see different ways that they could use the oils that they have. And then also, a lot of people have no idea all of the things that Doterra offers as far as like personal care items and cleaning and just so many different things. They don't even know that those exist. So having them go home with something like this, like especially the living magazine, is beautiful to look at. And they just learn a lot about Doterra and about the different products and things that they offer. And then this help that can be simple. It's a smaller little guide, I guess you could say, of some of the oils, some of the products, how to use them, really easy ways to use them. And so some people give this with samples. I tend to like what I mentioned earlier. It's called the A to Z guide. And it has more information, like specifically about oil, like the different oils and how to use them, than this guide does. But again, you might have to just see what's available in this area, but just showing you kind of an option of things that they could go home with. Okay, so just a few more tips about a class. Have a sign-up sheet so that you can, makes it easy to follow up. And so get their email, get their name, if you want to get their phone number. And, sometimes you might just have to gauge the class. Sometimes you already know everybody at the class, so you don't necessarily need to have this. But other times, especially when you're hosting a class for someone else, you're not going to know all these people. And so I just always like myself to have the sheet and not necessarily always rely on the host to do that, because sometimes the host is just doing this for you as a favor. And so they're not even thinking about any of this. So it's really going to be up to you to make sure that you have this if needed, so that you can be able to follow up with these people. And again, I like to get phone number and email, because so many people use text now versus they don't check their email. So hold consistent events. I mentioned this because, again, if you're sampling people and then they're having positive experiences, you don't necessarily want them to have to wait like 3 or 4 weeks to come to a class. So I think it's really great that you guys are going to be doing these weekly classes, so that at first you don't have to feel the pressure to do your own class if you don't want to. And so you will have a consistent events to be able to invite them to. Consistent events also, not only are they every week, but a lot of times they're the same day and time every week, so that you can just say every Tuesday we have a class at 8 p.m. Can you come this Tuesday, or when do you think you can come? So it just makes it really simple and easy in their mind. Okay, well, she has a class every Tuesday. Well, I can't come this Tuesday, but I can come next Tuesday. That just kind of makes it easy for people to know where to find you and how to come and be a part of it whenever they can, let's say. If you have an in-person class, you want to keep whatever you do really simple. Not only do you want to keep the class itself really simple so that people don't get overwhelmed, but if people can't see themselves being able to teach a class, and then you're kind of asking them if they want to join you in this, let's say, they're going to be like, well, I can't teach that class. I didn't know half of that information. It just seemed really complicated. So not only do you want to keep it simple for that reason, but you just don't want to have this whole elaborate spread. I get some cultures really like to do that type of thing, which is fine. I'm not saying that's wrong, but you might not want to have any food and drink. I've had so many classes where I didn't have any of that. It's really just more about the learning. But I also have had, classes where we did have some food or drinks or whatever it might be. It's probably best in general, though, if you do have a class in person and you want to have some of these things, to do it after the class. Like you say, just, after this class, we're going to have snacks and drinks or whatever it is. I hope you can stay for that. And so it kind of just helps you to get the class going, but also so they don't rush out the door. It just kind of helps with that too. So, but just try to keep it as simple, and on yourself too. There's no need to stress about these things. Don't guard their pocketbook. This is something that we just have to present the information and then let them decide, because oils aren't the cheapest thing out there. I mean, there are certainly cheaper oils, but Doterra oils are not the cheapest thing out there, let's say. But we just have to remember that they have to choose for themselves, and that if somebody sees something as important, even if we think we know they don't have a lot of funds, that how are they going to be able to afford this? We don't know what their personal situation is. So I just think it's really important for us to just take a step back, know that we're just here presenting the information and helping them to have the opportunity to get these into their home, and we just have to let them decide. And also, whenever you're talking to someone after they've come to a class, or even a one-on-one, you always just want to suggest what you think is going to be best for them, not what you think they can afford. Because if they're just saying, oh, I need, digestion for my stomach ache, but they've talked about all these other health issues they have, or their family has, or something such as that, they're not really going to be served as very well by just getting digestion, right? They need like a healthy start kit or whatever it might be. They need to try some of these other oils for their different issues. So just always make sure that you say, this is my top recommendation. What do you think about that? Like, do you think this is going to work for you? But don't not present that, because they can always, come back and say, well, what about this? Or I just really can't afford that right now. So I just think that's important to give them room to decide for themselves. Show up to serve. And this is the most important thing, because if people can sense this. I'm not excited to say that I have showed up to a class and been like, well, I need 4 enrollments. I sure hope I can get them today. And that I don't say that with a whole lot of excitement, because I'm not happy that I had that mentality going in. But people can tell when you're showing up just to spout out some information and get the class over with. And I really had to have some pep talks around this, because sometimes I don't want to go to a class. Let's be honest. I've got something else I've got to do. I'm busy. I'm this. But every single time I show up to a class, and I give myself that pep talk, I say a little prayer, and I show up just to serve, my attitude changes. My mindset changes on these things. Like, I'm able to really help the people there, and we have these relationships that are nurtured. It always makes me feel so much better, and it's always worth it, So I know that you guys get sometimes it's not easy to show up, but just having the right heart behind it is so much more enjoyable, and to just show up to serve and then just leave the rest to God, because it's not up to us what happens whenever we do teach people about these products and things. We really can't. We got to drop the expectations, let's say. That just helps so much. So hopefully these tips and this kind of overview of how to do a class and sample and invite has helped you to see more of the bigger picture of this. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about follow-up. So follow-up is something, to be honest, that I sometimes has seemed really a lot like a chore. And sometimes I have a bad attitude about it. Like, why can't these people why do I have to keep not reminding them? Why do I have to keep following up them and nurturing the relationship? And it just seems, it kind of seems like one-sided sometimes. And that, again, I have to change my mentality about that and really approach it as nurturing a relationship, not trying to get somebody to buy something, because they can feel that again, and then I have a bad taste in my mouth, let's say, about it, right? It really does affect the whole interaction and the way that we approach it. So if follow-up you might be like a relationship person who just like love to nurture relationships. And others, we all have different strengths. So I'm just sharing that with you, as maybe you're not a relationship person, but that's okay. I think that whenever we have strengths and maybe we have weaknesses, like, we just have to rely on God more for those types, for in those situations. So follow-up, though, at the end of the day, is very important, because people are busy, people forget, people just aren't ready yet. People possibly are just still seeing if they want to work with you, even, if you're there for the right reasons, if your intentions are good, or if you're just trying to sell them something and then are just, gonna move on to the next person. So anytime that you spend nurturing relationships, and really follow-up should just be adding value and building relationships. That's really what it should be. You're not wasting your time. And this says, if you don't follow up after a class, you just wasted your time and your money hosting a class. I don't necessarily look at it like that, because I don't really think we've wasted our time. I just think that sometimes we just have to look at this a little bit differently, as far as it just takes different people different amount of times, and we just have to not give up on people, basically, when it might be easier to do that. Okay, how to follow up after they enroll. So this is something that's really important, because whenever people get their oils, now they might have used oils before and might be more familiar with oils. Everybody's kind of coming in at a different level whereas that goes, but you just want to make sure that they know how to get the best use out of what they got, but also how to know all the other products that Doterra has that they might not realize, and just create a plan for them. That's really what the membership overview is about, because you don't want people to just purchase these things and then not use them, or not know the best ways to use them. So it really is important that you show them how to use what they got, but also create a plan so that they they kind of know where they're going as far as what they're going to use these for. And if they have a specific issue, what they're going to use for that now, and then what they're going to add in the next month, because it's going to build on their protocol, let's say. So you want to try to schedule this 5 to 7 days after enrollment. Now, that might be different depending on shipping times and when they're going to get their oils. So I think you might have to kind of weigh that out, because and kind of gauge where the person is. You could just go ahead, if they don't have the products, just go ahead and share this information with them. Or, you might want to wait until they have it in their hand. Or they might say, well, I just want to wait until I have the oil. So it kind of just depends on that. The 5 to 7 days isn't a must, but it's ideal because they're excited about their purchase and you're helping them to learn more quicker rather than waiting like a month later. It's good to schedule it at the time of enrollment because, again, sometimes if you don't do that, then you're almost kind of trying to chase the person down to like get a date, because maybe they're busy or maybe they don't necessarily see the benefit of why they need to hop on the phone with you. Some people are just kind of, everybody's different about that. So it really is best to kind of schedule it whenever you enroll them. Say you get them started, you're finishing the process. Okay, well, when can we hop on the phone to kind of go over everything that you got here, and so I can make sure that you know how to use it. That's how I usually word it. And you might have a scheduling link for this that you could send them, or you might have a paper calendar that you can go ahead and just get a date down on that. Getting them a reference book is important, or making sure they know where to find how to use, the oils and having a reference for them. So there are a lot of different apps now that people really like versus in your hand type of book. Either way, I feel like it's really important to make sure they have a resource. Some people like to give them books out to every enrollment that they have. Other people like to only give books to people that maybe get on the loyalty order program or something like that. But just making sure that you kind of think about, well, how am I going to get one of these books in their hand, or help them get an app or something like that is important. Make this a 30-minute phone consultation. So that's probably how most people do a membership overview. You definitely could do it in person, and I would encourage you to do it in person if you could. But Zoom call or like a video call is probably the next best option, but a phone call will work as well. But around 30 minutes is what you should tell them to expect. And introducing them to the loyalty program is best done here versus in the class. Because if you have given them all this information and then they're trying to figure out what they're going to get started with, and then you throw in, oh, and by the way, there's this loyalty program, and they just might get a little bit too overwhelmed. So I find that it's better to wait to introduce them to the loyalty program until the membership overview after they've already gotten started. And then, of course, I mentioned creating a daily protocol, because some people, I work with 2 types of people in the past. So one person doesn't need any help creating a daily protocol because they're just very self-sufficient. Like maybe they've already gotten their book, or they've looked up different things about the oils that they're going to get, and they already know how they're going to use them. But other people really need help with creating habits and how they're going to use these, and really giving them like practical ways to even put them around their house so that they can see them, so they can remember to use them, like all that stuff. You just kind of have to gauge where that person is. Okay, so business overview. So the build guide I mentioned is really good for this. I always like to mention at the membership overview, and even at the class, let's go back one step to the class. A lot of times at the end of the class, you can talk about the 3 types of people that are attracted to Doterra: those that just want to purchase, those that want to share with others, and those that want to do what you're doing as far as teaching the class. Like they want to be educator, they want to kind of really help people with this natural lifestyle. So you've already introduced them to it at the class, and you said, okay, well, if you're interested in this, we're going to have, we're going to share more on this on X date and time, when you really do a in-depth business overview type of class. But at the membership overview, you could say toward the end or sometime during that, that 30-minute block, have you ever thought about sharing with other people would it be great for you to get your oils paid for? Like, there's different ways that you could ask them. Basically, do you want more information about the business side of Doterra? So if they say yes to that, you could either invite them to a call that you're doing, or just say, hey, why don't we, in a couple weeks, we'll sit back down and we'll go over this together, and I can show you more about it. And the build guide is great to do this. Now, any of these guides you can get online. They have online options of I think it's called like an online magazine of these different guides. So like the live guide, the share guide, the build guide, all of those things are online. So if you did have a business overview, or even when you have your membership overviews, you can just pull that up if they don't have it, actually a physical copy in their hand. So this is just going to show them and kind of walk them through. It's going to explain the compensation plan. It's going to show a little bit about Doterra's mission. It's going to help them to kind of get started as far as setting up their classes and helping them teach. And so this is just a great guide to help you if you want to share more about the business side with someone. So this is the Empowered Success kind of trio of guides. They actually have more than this, but these are the main three. So just know that Empowered Success is Doterra's, see how should I word it? It's kind of their business. It just helps walk people through the business side of Doterra. They have a lot of trainings that you can find online. There's courses that you can take, recorded calls, different things like that. The business building guide actually is a really great way for you to get started. And so I'll talk about that with Kelsey. And so we'll get you guys, depending on where you are and kind of what you want to do and how fast even you want to kind of go with this, that will kind of gauge where you start with some of these, and also help you gauge where you would help somebody else start. Okay, so the most important 8 steps to do after you enroll someone. So you do want to send them some type of follow-up email or email series. This doesn't have to be very complicated, but making sure that someone is pretty supported in the first 2 or 3 months that they enroll is important, because they're excited. This is all new to them. Like, they're trying to kind of get their feet wet with things. Like, there's just a lot of different reasons why in the first 2 or 3 months it's important to check in with them, to nurture them. And so one way to do that is an email series. Now, this doesn't have to, again, be really complicated. It could just be you having a reminder on your calendar or phone to send them an email. It doesn't have to be like within an emailing platform. But it is great to do that too, because then you don't have to remember it. But just sending them resources, adding value to them is great to do. Add them to the pages. So we have a members page that you can add them to, where we share lots of resources and information on a daily and weekly basis. And it's also a good place for them to ask questions, because yes, they'll have you to ask questions too, and some people will ask a lot of questions, but some people also like to, you want to empower them, right? You want to say, hey, go here. If you have questions, you can search in this group, or you can ask a question. And a lot of times they want more opinions than just yours. No offense, but they want to see what other people have tried. So this is a great place for them to do that. So send them a My Oils Are Here Now What video. So we have one of these that you can send your new enrollees, because this is I think it's about a 50 or 60 minute video that really goes over, now that you have your oils, how do you use them? And it kind of it shares a little bit about different areas of health that you can use oils in, but a lot of the video goes into how do you get these around your home so that you can use them in the most efficient way, which people need help with that. Again, they need help with how to introduce these into their daily routine and how to make them a habit. So that video does really a great job in doing that, so that you don't feel like you have to do that every single time for every single new enrollment. Whenever you do a membership overview, that's not really what the membership overview should be. Best case scenario is they've already watched this video, and so then maybe they have questions and you can answer some of those questions in the membership overview. So again, do a membership overview and get a book into their hands, or connect them with some type of app or something like that. Ask them if they would like to host a class. Now I've mentioned, how to teach a class and how to invite people to a class. We should be doing that. We personally should be inviting people to classes, but it's really great when other people can invite people to classes and you just show up to teach. Because this really is the way that I built my business primarily, is asking other people to host classes. Because when I first got started, I was not online. I would not say that I had a big circle or network, let's say, of people to kind of tap into. Of course I had my warm network, family, friends, but I didn't have a big network. And so I didn't have to. It was a great experience for me to meet new people and sort of let them help me introduce me to their networks. That's why it's called network marketing, because that's really, it's so great that you get to pour into other people in this way and meet new people and help them with their health. So I don't look at it as, well, I'm just going to prey on my friends' friends. You could look at it like that if you had the wrong intentions per se, but I love that I get to help other people's friends learn about how to take better care of themselves with natural medicine. So I love asking people to host classes. I think if you make it easy for people. All they have to do, obviously if it's in person, a lot of times people open up their homes, but other than that, they don't really have to do much. So I think this is an excellent thing to do, and I really encourage you to do that, because honestly, if they're your friend, many people are like, sure, I'll host a class. It's not really that big of a deal, but it helps you out tremendously. So I just think that's a great thing to think about as you begin. So next, ask them if they want to learn more about how to get those paid for. We mentioned that. However you want to word that, maybe you know that this person has already been interested in sharing with people. Maybe you know that financially it would really benefit them. Whatever you want to kind of say to them to sort of ask if they want to learn more about that. You kind of have to gauge it on each person. Invite them to the groups and to continuing education. So I already mentioned about inviting them to the member group, but we have continuing education live most of the time. So I say most of the time. Sometimes we take little breaks for we're going to take a break over the summer, and we just took one for the Christmas and New Year's holiday. But most of the time, every Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern, which I know is a little bit different. I mean, obviously the times are different. So I think that's in the morning for you guys. But we have one every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So if they can join live, that's great. If not, we have all of these classes recorded. So just making sure that they know there's a lot of educational classes for them to learn more about different areas of health and how they can use oils and doTERRA products in those areas. Is a great asset to them. So follow up. We mentioned following up. Ask them if they need help. Just check in. You don't feel like you're being annoying when you check in, because if you're literally just saying, hey, do you have any questions? How is X, Y, and Z issue going? Is the lavender working for your sleep? Can I help you in any way? Just whatever you've taught, try to make it as personal as you can, so that they feel that, oh, okay, she remembered I had a sleep issue. And so that just makes it, instead of just saying, hey, how's it going? Making it more as personal as you can is always the goal. But again, following up, especially with a new customer in the first 2 to 3 months, is very important. Okay, let's watch this short video of the law of interaction.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Peterson, and I'm excited to share with you today the law of 4 interactions. When you think about life, life is sales. Whether you have a formal sales position or not, life is sales, right? Getting hired at a job is a sales experience. Getting married or getting engaged is a sales process. Getting your children to do their homework or eat their vegetables at some level is a sales process. So when you look at this concept in sales, where a lot of people sometimes struggle or they get in their own way, sabotage their success, is they don't stick with it long enough. And what I mean by that, in their contacts and in their relationships and nourishing that. So life is sales, but sales are simply relationships. You've probably heard it said before that people like to buy from those they know, like, and trust. That's influenced me, it's influenced you, and will continue to be a massive influence for the sales to come in any industry, right? Is the power of that relationship. So what I love about the law of 4 interactions is this is some research that comes out of Notre Dame University, a gentleman named Herbert True, if you're interested. And in observing thousands upon thousands of sales interactions, what they started to track in that research and that data is that 60% of sales transactions, now consider that number, 60%. That means the bulk of your business is found that people purchase after a 4th interaction. All that simply reinforces is that people, again, buy from those they know, like, and trust, and that there's a relationship established there. Especially the higher your price point goes for a product, a service, a program, is that that relationship leverage will become critical at influencing that sales transaction. Now, some relationships, they're going to need even more time. Some are going to need less. But if you can understand that concept, that the majority of your business, 60% of your business is found after a 4th interaction. Now, here's some other interesting data that goes along with that study, is that 44% of all salespeople, that's you and me, you might say, I'm a business owner, I'm a vice president, an executive, I'm a network marketer, I'm a coach, I'm a healer, whatever titles that you have at some level, sales, your ability to influence and persuade and communicate and share, and most importantly, serve, is going to be found again in that relationship. So 44% of all salespeople would quit after a first contact. That's almost half, 50% that would give up and quit right out of the gate. That's if they even get started, that they'd make one contact, maybe one phone call, one voicemail, one email. And if they don't get the response they want, they're done and they're off looking for someone else. But if you're in the business of developing massive wealth, massive influence, then you're going to need to be a little more persistent than that and see it from a bigger perspective that you're nurturing a relationship. Finish up that data. 44% will quit after a first contact, another 24% after a second contact, another 14% after a third, and another 12% after a 4th contact. That means that 94% of all salespeople, business owners, healers, coaches, executives, will quit after a 4th contact. Just entertain for just a moment for me. What results do you think the 6% have? Probably that's pretty clear, right? When you study high achievers and performers in any industry, any organization, they have an essence of persistence and grit, if you will, that stick-to-itness that they're going to continue on to nurture and develop. See, when someone tells you no in a sales proposition, proposal, presentation, they tell you no, just remind yourself that it isn't no forever, it's no for today. When you remind yourself of that, what I love about knowing that research is that the majority of your sales, 60%, will come after a 4th interaction. What I love about that knowledge and that awareness is you can turn off all the voices in your head around, oh, maybe they don't like me, maybe I offended them, they're not interested, because guarantee, if most people, again, half will quit after a first contact, what do you think they're telling themselves? Maybe what you've told yourself, or maybe team members or employees or sales reps of yours are telling themselves is, oh, they're just simply not interested. Show them this video, get them to know the facts and the knowledge, because what I love about knowing that information is it helps me stay anchored that I'm here of purpose. I'm here to serve them. I'm here to build relationships, right? When you're in the business of relationships, you're in the business of service, adding value, nourishing your network. When you show up and play life in your business from that angle, you can write your ticket. You'll have whatever it is that you want if you're faithful and persistent to give it the time that it needs. One thought and comment or idea I want to share with you briefly is this. When you're saying, gosh, I'm making contacts, right? The difference between contacts and contracts is one letter, the letter R. And you're going to put a little heart around it, right? And that R just simply means relationship. So if you're making contacts, you're making reaching out, emails, invitations, lunches, phone calls, connecting, but you're not getting the contracts, all it tells you is you need a little more time on the relationship, a little more time to nurture, connect, ask more, ask to serve, be a resource, add that value. I guarantee if you will be faithful and persistent, that is the magic sauce in life and creating whatever you want. Persistence always trumps talent. Life and sales and results don't always go to the most attractive, the most educated, or the person with the best education or upbringing. Success in life and results go to the most faithful, the most persistent, which is you, if you choose it to be. Persistence is a choice, right? Being consistent and following up and being willing to say, I'm in it for the big payout. I'm in it to nurture relationships to a point and a place where then I have multiple business and referrals that start to come in because you live this on a regular basis. Remind yourself, remind your team members that their success, your success, hinges upon this principle. Life is sales. Sales are simply relationships. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. You need a little more time potentially if you're not converting as many contracts from your contacts. So you need a little more time on nourishing the relationship aspect to your business. You want more tips and tools and to stay connected, you can find me at tiffanyspeaks.com. I'd love to stay connected with you there.
I always do that. Okay, there you go. So I'm curious what you kind of thought of that video, or what it reminded you of or brought up for you. I was just curious. I'll go first. So it reminded me that definitely the day and time that we live in, people are just so wanting more relationship. No matter if it's even over the phone or online or whatever it is, it just seems like we value relationships more, even if we don't even realize it, that we realize the importance of it. So I just think about, sure, we might be coupling that relationship with wanting to help them in this way as far as Doterra goes, but it still goes back to the relationship. And if we love people well, I think only good things can come out of it. So that's what it reminded me of. Anybody else want to share in the comments or excuse me, the chat, or just unmute yourself? Well, that's okay. We can share later, or
I can share, Kari. I think for me, this is Lauren speaking, but I get nervous about following up with people because I don't want them to think that I'm just trying to make a sale. And so I don't always quite know what to say when following up with people. So for example, there's someone that I've followed up with maybe 3 times now that they said yes, they want to do it, but last month money got short. And so then this just 2 days ago, I sent a text talking about why it's a good time to do it, and the free Japanese peppermint will come with their order and everything. And I got no response from it. So I'm just wondering, I don't want to seem like I'm just trying to make a sale, but sometimes I don't know what to say.
I totally get this. And I've felt like this several times too. And I think it just comes with, knowing that your own intentions are good. It's not just to get them to buy X, Y, and Z thing. Like maybe they have shared with you why they want these, and if you know that they have a pressing issue that they could use these for. And so just keeping that in mind and knowing that your intentions are good are so much, it helps so much with this process. So that's first. But also just knowing that it might take a while and not trying to rush the process. I know that it's hard when somebody doesn't respond because you're like, you don't know what they're thinking. You're thinking they're thinking the worst. Like, this person's annoying me. I don't have time for this. I don't want this. But I will say probably 9 times out of 10, people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I have not responded to you. I was just slammed with this X, Y, and Z thing. It's really usually not ever about us. It's about something that's going on in their life. So you kind of just have to decide for yourself as far as what the responses have been in the past. It's just different for every person, obviously, that you're kind of trying to follow up with. But if I haven't gotten any responses, sometimes I'll just simply be upfront with them and say, hey, I don't want to bother you with this, but I just, I wanted to check back in with you one more time. Will you just let me know, if you just are not interested right now? Like, just be upfront with them. And if it's coming from a good heart, 9 times out of 10 people will text back, no, I'm so sorry, I've been busy, So that's an approach you can take, to just being upfront about, hey, you said this, but this, this has kind of been happening. What's, just let me know. I'd love to know, because I don't want to bother you, because literally that's your intention. You don't want to aggravate them. You could just simply switch the subject and talk about something completely not related to oils. Say you knew this person and they're your friend, and you could talk about something else. That's kind of 2 scenarios that have worked with me if I've kind of tried to follow up with someone and I'm not getting any responses. So I just shared that because you just don't ever know what's going on in their life. So it's usually not about us that we're aggravating them. All right, guys, I'm going to keep going here, but I'd love to have more conversations about this, because these are the things that we need to have conversations about, because they're, this whole process, whenever you present it like this, oh, it seems so easy and it's fun and it is, but then you'll run into roadblocks like that and you're like, oh, what do I do here? Those are the kind of things that, hey, share in the WhatsApp group so we can all try to help. Those are the kind of things that really discourage people, that don't necessarily have to, if you just, ask that question, what would you do in this scenario? That's the best thing that you can do, is just to simply work through them with this group, I think. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. We have, let's see, I don't know what slide we're on, but I would say we probably have about 10 or 15 more slides or so. So we'll have some time at the end to chat. Okay, after a class, you definitely want to follow up and contact the person within 2 days of the class, and this would be obviously if they didn't enroll at the class. You could offer to meet them, because sometimes when people come to a class, they got some information, but they still don't necessarily know if it's something that is right for them or what's right for them. They want a little bit more individualized help. So you could offer to have a phone call with them or to meet them one-on-one to kind of go over what might be the best, option for them to get started with or answer their questions. You could send an email with a video or something to add value if you maybe haven't gotten a response. Let's say you could send that over. And you could remind them of any special promotion that's like ending. A lot of times at the class, well, I won't say a lot of times, sometimes I'll say, everybody that enrolls at this class gets a free wild orange or something like that. And then you could say that the wild orange promotion ends tonight. I just wanted to make sure that you didn't want to take advantage of that. So, you could kind of send a follow-up message about something like that. That's another way to follow up after a class. If they say no to really like wanting to get started right now, if they say no, you can always ask them if they'd like a sample, especially if you did not sample somebody prior to a class. They might need more time. They need more experiences, let's say. So you could ask them if they want a sample. You could ask them if they would just like to come to another class. Again, Tiffany Peterson just talked about the law of the 4 interactions, but honestly, I think it's way more than 4, because it just depends on where somebody's coming into when they meet you and you start the process of building that relationship. They may have already come to you and have already been, exposed to a lot of education and sort of are already almost ready to purchase. But some people may come to you and they don't know anything about oils, and they just heard their friend talking about it, and so they came to their friend with this class with their friend. So they really don't know a whole lot. So it kind of just depends. Some people need to come to multiple classes before they are ready, and so they just need, each time they just digest a little bit more information, and so they're just going to wait until they're ready to purchase. So you just don't know when that is. So just keep inviting them to continue to learn. Okay, so this last section kind of goes into, or one of the last sections goes into how to define your why, because you do want to know why you're you're wanting to share with others and kind of pursue the business side of this, because this to me just makes sure that your intentions are pure and that you keep this kind of in the back of your mind as far as when things get hard or when it's not maybe quite as fun today as it was yesterday, or kind of as you keep going. It's just something we always kind of need to know why we are doing certain things, because it's not always easy. So we need to remember these to keep us going. It does give you clarity to know why you're doing something. Again, it keeps you going through the discouraging times. Your why should push you. And some people have like a money why, they want to. I mean, I would say mine was mixed, because when I first started, I didn't realize that I could make enough money to leave my job. So it was all purely like, I just want to help people like know how to use natural products in their home. But then it kind of evolved to, well, I could do this, much better if I didn't have to go to my job and also do this, at kind of on the weekends and at night. So I think it evolves, but it definitely pushed me to remember why I was doing this. And most of it goes back to, your family, and you want to be with them more, and you want to, and also it could go to, you want families to experience what you have, as far as you want the mom, to feel empowered in their kids' health and in their own health. So it's different for everybody. It fuels your how. It really does. Your why does fuel how you do this business and how you show up. And it drives your passion. Because passion is something that I've seen come and go sometimes. Passion can waver. But if you really have a strong reason why you're doing this, that doesn't waver. So it really does help drive you through some of the hard times. Okay. So this is something that you might want to take a screen, like a phone picture of these questions, because this will be something that you want to go back and think about and answer. And again, everybody's answers are going to be different, I would say, but I just want you to take time with this, because sometimes when we rush into this and we want to kind of get going and we don't really take enough time on this, it starts to show up as time goes on, because again, that passion and that excitement is not always going to be there every single day. So knowing your why is very important. It's something that will carry you through month after month and year after year. So everybody got a picture, probably, hopefully. I'd love to know, as the week goes on, or weeks, for whenever you do answer these questions, that you share them, because I would personally like to get to know more of you guys. And this would be one way that I could do that, is to get to know you in this way of just like, what are your desires? Like, where's your heart at? I just would love to even, pray for you specifically in these things. So I would love it if you share this in the group. Okay, so this is a quote by Tony Robbins. Everyone has a list of shoulds. I should spend more time with my kids, should spend more time with a business plan. There's a lot of different shoulds we should have, but they just end up shooting all over themselves. Is how the quote goes. So we need to convert some of those shoulds into musts. And a lot does change, after that. And not everything that we should do should be a must, but there are some things that need to be a priority, is basically what this is saying. And sometimes we have to sacrifice for things that we want that will be later. Again, when I first got started, I had to sacrifice time with my kids. Even though I wanted more time with my kids, I had to sacrifice some of that so that I could have more time later down the road, like now. So I think that when you write down the answers to some of those questions, I hope it brings to light some of the things that will be a priority for you as you go on in this journey. So passion definitely is something. Instead of saying passion sales, I would like to say passion really, it's like a magnet. People are really excited to learn from and kind of drawn to people that are passionate, that are full of joy, that are excited. So just think about that whenever, you maybe you already have. I know some people have already started sharing and contacting and building relationships, but as you sort of start doing that or continue to do that, just think about coming from a place of excitement versus whenever things do get a little bit interesting, you have objectives, people don't respond X, Y, and Z. You just know that it doesn't mean that you're not doing something right. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be good at this. It doesn't mean any of that. It just simply means it's part of the process, and that if we come with the right intention and we just focus on having joy every day, no matter what, and kind of dropping the expectation, I think that our passion and our excitement will shine through. Simon Sinek, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. So I really like this quote. I've actually watched his TED Talk several times because I do think it's really important for people to know why you do what you do, because so many people are trying to sell something. I mean, it just, everywhere you look, it seems like people are trying to sell something. But it often catches my attention if I know why somebody is very passionate about what they're trying to sell, because there's definitely passionate people out there that are trying to sell everything under the sun, but why are they trying to sell that? And I think even now, especially, we just want to make sure that we are wisely investing our money in things that matter, in companies even that have certain viewpoints or that have certain missions. You know, I think that so many people are way more in tune with that now, because, you know, there's just a lot of, unfortunately, politics that are involved with that. But I think we're just way more aware of that now. So that goes with, you could even share at classes, and I would encourage you to, about the mission behind Doterra. I shared more about that in the last video that we did. But all of that really matters. And you just never know what people are going to connect with. Maybe they're going to connect with Doterra's mission. Maybe they're going to connect with your why, and the reason that why you're passionate about this. But at any rate, they're not going to connect with it if you don't share it. So just remember that when you put things out there on social media, even, or when you're talking with people, just having a few sentences about like why you're doing this, that you maybe even just, it's not that you necessarily memorize, but that you just can easily say to someone that really clearly defines why you're doing this is great. Okay, power of written goals. I do love doing things on the computer. I love like digital organization, but I do find that writing down goals is just way more powerful than just writing them, typing them, on the computer. So maybe some of you like to journal already. Maybe you're already in tune with this in other ways in your life, but writing down your goals and your why and all this stuff, well, I already mentioned a few questions, but just keep going back to that. Sometimes I'll write things down and then I won't ever go back and look at it again. So maybe just keep that close, keep looking at it, keep it visible, because it is going to evolve, right? You're going to write some things down now, and then in a couple of months, you might need to revise that and keep kind of stretching yourself, and because things will change as well. So just keep revising that. Okay, so this could kind of go along with the other questions if you want to take a little snapshot of this. But whenever we get finished with this and you watch both trainings and you maybe answered those questions, just start out by writing, 5 to 7 small goals. They don't have to be huge goals, because I found that people are different. Some people they can dream really big, and other people just can't think that far into the future yet. Whatever your kind of bend is, just go with that. If you love to dream big, dream big, but then also write it, kind of come into what's some goals that I can accomplish in the next few weeks, even, to make it really micro, make it more real, if you will, in the now. But every goal does need to have an action step, because goals look pretty, but we have to know what are some action steps that we can actually get to those goals. So this should help you whenever you're writing these things down. All right, let's talk about, this is the last section. Create your pipeline. This is going to go into some about residual income. And residual income is I mean, I guess I know what it was. I don't really even think I know what it was. But they do talk about residual income a good bit in Doterra because it is really awesome. You know, I came from a 9-to-5 job, so if I wanted to get paid, I needed to be at my job for X amount of hours. Which there's nothing wrong with that at all. And there's a time and a place for that. And there might always be a time and a place for that in your story. But yet I think it's really important to think about adding some form of residual income into your stream of income, or that might be plural. So let's talk a little bit about why that might be. Okay, this is a short video.
Back in 1999, I was going to college. I read a book, and it had a very impactful story that stuck with me ever since then. In fact, I was going to school to be a dentist. And when I read this book, I actually changed everything that I was doing and realized that I was actually going to school to haul buckets. Now, what I mean by that is this story. Basically, there's this guy. He lives in a village. The village is a couple miles away from the closest water source. And his job basically was to put a yoke on his back, hitched to 2 different buckets, and he'd make this hike every day. He'd fill his buckets up with water, walk back, and every day, all of his inventory was sold out. Everybody wanted what he had. Everybody needed what he had. He had an incredible job security. And if he wanted to make more money, he'd just simply make more trips. He would go back and forth as many times as he could. And every time he went back and forth, he'd make more money. And anyway, that's how he provided for his family. That's how the village got water. Well, another guy sees this and says, man, I want to take advantage of that because that guy's got perfect job security. Everybody needs this product. And so he fashions himself a yoke, gets a couple buckets and starts making trips the same as this other guy. Just like the other guy, everybody needed this product. He's making a good living. But what he ended up doing is instead of making multiple trips per day, he would basically make one trip. And then he'd take whatever extra time he had and start building a pipeline. I guess you could say he was working full-time on his job and part-time on his fortune. Well, one man was hauling buckets back and forth, making more money than his friend. He worked day and night, night and day. First hauling buckets to make sure his family was taken care of, and then working nights and overtime trying to figure out how to build his pipeline, overcoming the concerns that he had to deal with, the rocks in the ground. He spent the time doing that to build this pipe consistently and persistently over time. Well, a few years later, he finally finishes the pipeline, gets it to the village, and eventually turns on a spigot. Now, at this point, everybody in the village can come and get as much water as they want. It's cooler, cleaner, fresher, better than the water he was hauling with buckets, and cheaper. Everybody could get it much more affordably. And he did this. He not only built an actual pipeline that was a pipeline of water, but he also built a financial pipeline, something that would pay him and his family and take care of his needs for the rest of his life. And that's basically what I realized when I was reading this book, going to college. I realized I was going to school to haul buckets. I wasn't building a pipeline, something that would take care of me and allow me to pursue my greater causes and higher purposes in life. I was basically working for money. And so basically what I did from that point on is I changed my career choice. And I've always tried to build pipelines. Over the last decade, every business venture I've gone into, I've tried to structure it in such a way. I had a software company recently, a marketing company before that. But every single one of these companies had something in common. It was an attempt to make a pipeline. And some of them were very successful. Some of them were spectacular failures. But either way, my pipeline, what I was trying to do was create this pipeline. Well, as I started building a Doterra business, when I got introduced to this, I immediately went right back into, okay, this is a pipeline. It's obvious how this is a pipeline. We create a residual income, something that when we're done, we turn on a spigot and we can provide for our family for a long, long time.
All right. Okay. So I remember the first time when I saw that video, it just made so much sense. And it's not that hauling buckets is bad, but it's just that building a pipeline it's just more efficient, I guess you could say. And sometimes there's you need to do both, and sometimes you work over years and you don't have to do both anymore. But I think it's a good video to explain what we're doing here. And you can, even by this example of giving water to the village, you saw, or you heard that it was better water and it was cheaper for them. So there were good things that came for him, the one that built the pipeline, but there was also good things that came for those in the village too. So I just think about that as far as we're empowering people in their own health. It's not like we're selling them something that they don't need, right? They're going to benefit from that, but we're also going to benefit from that too. And so that we can, use whatever residual income that we have for good things to then further God's kingdom. That's the way I look at it. So it just kind of frees you up to do that. If you're constantly hauling buckets back and forth for years and years and years and years, and you don't have any plans to kind of build this pipeline, I think that there possibly are things that you don't have time to do. And there are opportunities that you might miss out on because of that. So hopefully that makes sense. And this video kind of gives you a good mental picture of kind of what you're doing as far as building the pipeline. And that's exactly what I did. I had to still go to work, but I just figured out a way that I could make it work while I was still hauling buckets at the time. So most of the time that's what people do. Okay. And some of this, I'm going to go through this sort of quickly because we know what a traditional job is. Like not everybody lives paycheck to paycheck, but some do. You are somewhat dependent on someone else, unless you own your own business and still have to go into that job, which I feel like you'll probably change it a little bit more even that way. Well, I know as a pharmacist, there was definitely a limit on what I could earn. I might would get a raise every year, possibly every other year, but there was a limit on that. There really was nowhere I could advance necessarily with that. And there definitely was no time freedom. Like that was sort of the biggest thing to me. It wasn't necessarily the money, it was the time freedom and the impact that I could have on other people. So the time freedom, and I know one thing I wanted to mention about the hauling buckets and then the pipeline. Once you build your pipeline, it's not like you just go and like relax on the beach. That's not the way I look at it. I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to, but like that's not why I chose to build a pipeline or why I feel like you guys would. It's really so that we can make a bigger impact in the world, right? So I think some people might look at it and think, oh, well, you can just now go be lazy. I think it just all goes back to your intentions. Okay, so if you think starting a home-based business is a scam, imagine waiting a whole year for a 50-cent raise. It is kind of interesting, the perception of a home-based business or network marketing or direct sales or whatever you kind of want to call it. It kind of goes back to the intentions of people, how they choose to build relationships or not, I guess you could say. But yeah, I mean, if you really think about it in the whole grand scheme of things, it really doesn't make sense on this front. Okay, so pyramid scheme. Have you guys thought this before, or have you, I'm sure you've heard people talking about it. So it says, I'm often asked if network marketing is a pyramid scheme. My reply is that corporations really are a pyramid scheme. A corporation only has one person at the top, who's generally a CEO, and everyone else below. So a pyramid scheme really is basically when, or maybe that's a Ponzi scheme, either one, is when there's basically no real product that you're selling. It's just kind of this facade of you're investing in something. So I think that's what a lot of people think of when they think of a pyramid scheme. Or, I mean, I know I've heard Ponzi scheme before. I don't really know where that name comes from, but at any rate, that's definitely not what this is. And really, if you do think about it, as this quote said, a traditional job is typically more of a pyramid scheme than this. Okay, so network marketing. I'm not going to read all these, but sometimes when people see network marketing, they have a negative stigma attached. That might be you, that might not be you. I'll be honest, before Doterra, I did probably have somewhat, I mean, not like a super strong aversion to network marketing, I would say, but I just always thought I would never do that. But I think it was because I had seen people do it the way that I would not want to do it. And I think that was why it, in my mind, had a negative stigma. And I would say for the most part, that's probably the reason. If people have a negative thought about it or aversion to it, it's because they have seen someone send out, salesy messages to them or not have the right intention. So that's why I'm kind of talking about your intention a lot, because I do feel like it's very important. And often feeling like we need to overcome the stigma that maybe other people have about network marketing is not really our job to do that. And I say that because in the past, I might have thought that it was my job to kind of change people's perception about network marketing, but it's really not, because people are going to think what they want to think, but yet basically my job is to just show up with the right intention and not to prove them wrong necessarily, but to just show them a different way that it can be done, and to really make sure that I stay true to who I am. That's really all I can do. So I know that you're going to come across people that might not say it to your face, but have a negative stigma against this and think, oh, she's just doing another network marketing thing. But I think if they really knew what network marketing was, it's really just building relationships and helping people with a service or a product. That's really all it is. So I'm not going to say your whole long time, but I just wanted to mention that because it just depends where you're coming in from this. But I know a lot of people might have those thoughts. So that's Dave Ramsey, a quote from him. Okay, job versus network marketing. Again, a lot of this is things that we know, but again, it's good to see the differences between a job and starting your own business with network marketing. Okay, one more thing I want to share you is this video, and then this is the last thing. Then we'll have time for conversation.
Team, I was going through some old Doterra checks this morning and found one that was $13.73 for the month. This was 4 or 5 months after I signed up. It doesn't feel very rewarding when you know you're not getting paid what you're worth. But remember, this is not a job. We are building a pipeline. I haven't met a single leader in Doterra that has paid their dues and put in a consistent work and effort that has ever regretted it. Think about it. For most of us, we're sharing something that we would probably be sharing anyways. We're helping those that need our help and want a better way. You can't be successful in this business and not change countless other lives during your journey. People will be thanking you forever and have so much gratitude towards you because you were the one that introduced them, taught, or shared with them these amazing words. I've been doing this long enough to know that the general process that everyone goes through as they're trying to build their Doterra business. I also know the outcome for those that stick with it. The ones that decide, commit, and are consistent. We have so many people on our team that couldn't dream in a million years that their life would change so dramatically by helping others. I'm one of them. So remember, you are no different than everyone else that has found success with Doterra. I'm a firm believer the only way to fail with Doterra is to flat out quit. You all have inspired me. I'm grateful for the type of people that Doterra attracts. Thank you for all that you do to change lives, including your own. I know what it's like to be an elite. Okay, I premiere a brand new silver etc. And oftentimes in our business, we have people that come up to us and they say, you know what, I'm trying really hard. I'm working my tail off. I'm putting a lot of time into it, talking to a lot of people, having classes. And, my paycheck, it just seems like, because I divide by the number of hours that I'm working or that I've spent doing this business, and it averages out to about $1.27 per hour or $2.75 per hour. And they say, it just seems like I'm not getting paid what I'm worth. And I tell them, I said, you're absolutely right. You're not getting paid what you're worth. You're building a pipeline, and that takes time. And so as long as you see the big picture and what's down the road, okay, that your time is going to be worth so much more. I'm so glad that I went the route we did and stuck with it and treated it like a business. And it's definitely paid off. A lot of people ask me, so where are you at now? What's your check now? And I'm happy to inform you that $15 has now doubled. Okay, actually it's doubled to 30, but it's actually every 15 minutes. Okay, 24 hours a day, all day long, 7 days a week, 365 year round. So I guess you could say I'm glad I didn't quit.
All right. Oh, that was a good video. I enjoyed that. So, any comments or questions or thoughts? We got about 20 minutes, I guess, till our scheduled time.
I'm super excited that Doterra is coming to India. I never thought I would ever do this either, but I'm here and I'm excited. Also because I live in a city which is like a little close to Delhi, but it isn't like Delhi. But look at the air quality now. I mean, if I tell my Delhi friends that come to Jaipur because our air quality is better, no, I don't think that's right anymore. I used to say that a lot. Kelsey knows that. I mean, and then I'm like, when am I going to make this switch in my life? From making these conscious decisions of a healthier lifestyle. And being an Indian, it comes naturally for me to use oils. Like my mother used oils on me when I was a kid, like every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It's only when we grow up, go to college, we stop using them because, yeah, those are the mommy things.
That's right.
I'm just excited that in this journey, I will be able to learn a lot, to do certain things that my mom did for me, for my future kids. I don't have kids yet, but hopefully soon. I'm praying for that. So this is definitely going to be a breakthrough for me as somebody who wants to make a conscious decision of choosing a healthier lifestyle in like a daily routine. Like I'm not saying that I'm going to make a huge change, like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym every day, spend these many hours, but it's like whatever I usually do, just make like a healthier choice. And oils would be so good on my cabinet because we are Indians, we love oils.
Right.
And a lot of companies claim that they have great oils, but they don't have any testing done for them. But when I talked about doTERRA with my family, with my friends, they're pretty stoked too. Like they're very happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited. In like right now, I'm learning. I love attending this. Like today, I think I attended it without any disturbance. So I loved it. Thank you so much, Kari. Thank you so much, Kelsey. I'm really excited. When are you guys coming to India? That's my only question.
Soon, I hope. But I love that you share that. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I think it's interesting though, like my mom didn't use, and it's probably more so the norm that like growing up, especially my age, like it was just getting to everything was convenient. And we had more like modern medicine. So like everybody thought that was like the best thing ever. So my mom didn't really use any natural things on me. I think that's probably the majority of people in the US. So I think it's really interesting that your mom did, but yet even when you grow up, like you can move away from it. So even though it's still prevalent, I think, not everybody uses oils every day, even though they know about them. That was the takeaway that I kind of got from that. So I think it's really neat, and you're in a unique position with your age too, to even just talk about like how you moved away possibly from using them, but then how now you really want to make an effort to start using them again, and what that process looks like. Because again, like you said, you're not going to just up and change your entire lifestyle. It's going to look starkly different. It's going to be like over time, you're going to slowly make these changes, which I think is a lot more appealing and relatable and doable for people, rather than thinking it needs to look completely different. Hopefully that makes sense. I just think it's so relatable. So just sharing your personal story on that, like, and how you're going to do that, I think will be really great.
And I love what Roma has shared also. Her husband, UV, who's one of our, best friends, he has a cabinet full of oils, and she's always been kind of like, ugh, like the smell. But then even when we were there last week and we were kind of going through all the doTERRA oils, UV was like, I've sniffed so many bottles and I don't have a headache. Like these are different, and Roma's like using the diffuser now. And so I feel like it's been even neat to see like kind of like the difference between the quality of the doTERRA oils versus maybe what's available in the local market.
Definitely. I would think there would be a humongous difference. Obviously they speak for themselves, but I think that we have one of the things that I know that's big for you guys over there is just showing and maybe helping people experience how they're different, because they're so used to oil. So oils is not different to them. It's just the quality.
I don't know if Mary, are you here with us? I don't know if you're
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. Have you gotten your kit yet?
Yeah, I got my kit, got it like all set up. The first day I opened it, it was like the day I landed back into America, and like me and my family were all smelling the oils and like going around, and it was so fun. But I feel like it's been really neat to like put them on. Like I've been using the Breathe one a lot, and like my entire family can like feel their lungs. Like it just like helps. And even like the calming one at night. And so it's been really fun to get into and learn the health side of things. I've used Target oils in the past for like just smell good, but these are like different. You can tell the quality is way better.
Definitely. Awesome.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get my first kit. Guys, so excited. I've been using On Guard and Breathe a lot. I mean, like all the people I've shared it with, my mother-in-law, the kids of my very good friend, they're just so happy. Like, so when you tell them that, hey, if your kids have cold or flu, can I put some oil on them? They're like, yeah, take them. So that's the kind of attitude people have in India for oils, and specifically for all sorts of natural things. Like my mom was literally telling me the other day that, hey, can I send you some sesame oil? And I'm like, I know, mom, you want me to send, you want me to use oils, but what am I going to do with it? So it's in the culture. Like my mom has always used sesame oil on us during the winters. She used it to cook sometimes, put it on us, put it in my hair. So yeah, it's pretty culturally acceptable.
Definitely. So not only do they obviously use it for like scent, but they use it for a lot of medicinal type of things. So I think that they're going to see a humongous difference on that side, not only on like the smell, like the aromatic side, but for them to be like way more potent and like therapeutically too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. Just give me my first kit, guys.
I know, we're trying to get you signed up.
But like, any idea by when you guys are going to land in India with all your, the the
I
grand
mean,
opening.
they keep saying it's the first quarter, so we're hoping like March. So
Awesome. I'm going to pray.
yes, me too.
To pray for, right?
Yes. And Kelsey, before I forget it, I know that you probably already mentioned this, but do you want to just share a little bit about like the weekly classes or even the text class, which is tomorrow, right?
Yeah. So tomorrow night it'll be 8:30 to 9:30 India Standard Time. And it's going to be a text class. And so I have sent out the invite for the WhatsApp group. I can send that out again if anybody missed that. But yeah, so every few minutes for about an hour, I'm just going to be sending out text of an intro to oils class. And so it'll basically be like someone's showing up to a Zoom class or showing up to an in-person class, but they'll have the convenience of, maybe they're watching live and they're reading it, or maybe they catch up later. We talked a little bit earlier about how sometimes people are busy and, maybe they wouldn't have come if it had been a Zoom class or an in-person class, especially with the whole Omicron stuff going on right now. So this is, I feel like for us, this is going to be like one of those repetitions that Kari was talking about with the class. So I'll be facilitating the class. You guys can all be in the class and kind of watch me do it. And then you guys will get more familiar with the text. You'll get to kind of watch me do it. And then I'll be able to, Kari was able to share the script with me. I can share it with you guys. And then it'll be something that anybody can reproduce later. And then kind of the time that we're meeting right now, I think we'll probably do 8:30 to 9:30 instead of 8 to 10. Sorry, making sure a baby isn't waking up. 8:30 to 9:30 every Tuesday night, at least for the month of January. We're going to start with that. We're going to do a Zoom intro to oils class. And so again, I want to do the best job I can do of just giving you guys something to invite to. And so like Kari said, we'll all be doing classes very soon, but this will be, as you guys are sharing about oils, I'm going to be making sure before I leave the country that everybody is set up with samples and things like that, that you can be sharing with people. But as we're just, starting this conversation, I want to make sure that you guys have something to invite to, that you guys are getting comfortable with the information. And then, as I'm in the States, basically February and the first half of March, we can be enrolling people. If we know that the market's going to open in March anyway, if that's what we're looking forward to, then we kind of have this unique opportunity of the American market actually has more products than the Indian market will have at the very beginning. And so when the Indian market launches, we're going to have, 40 to 50 of the most basic doTERRA products, which is going to be amazing, right? Because like Roma said, it'll be here. Like we can order online and then it'll show up at our door here. It'll be amazing. But we kind of have this unique opportunity of, if someone wanted to browse all of doTERRA's products and not be limited to what they order. So maybe someone is like, man, I'm really interested in some of the supplements. Yuvraj, like someone who's like a supplement guy. This is kind of like a unique opportunity to say, I'm going to go ahead and start my loyalty rewards orders, but I'm going to stock up on some stuff that maybe I won't be able to get once the Indian market opens. And so we kind of, like I said, we kind of have this unique window of let's browse all the stuff, get whatever we want. And then as people like Roma and Yuvraj are building, you guys already know that you're excited to get the products. You already know that you're excited to stock up on, stuff. You can also be building your business in the meantime as well. And so, the class will be a way to get people excited about that. And then I hope it's an awesome resource for everybody.
Definitely. So you're going to do the take class tomorrow, and then the other ones will most likely be soon. Is what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. What do you think, Kari? Do you think that we should?
Oh, no, I was just curious. Yeah, I think we can definitely see how tomorrow goes, and then we can play it by ear, right?
Yeah.
Change if we need to. Yeah, I think that's a good plan.
I think I'm thinking being able to model both.
Yes, I agree.
And
Both are important because they're different. You know, some people are gonna connect more with in person that way, like Zoom, and then other people are gonna like text better just because it fits their lifestyle better and whatnot.
yeah, and so let's like, I'm thinking like, tomorrow text, the next one Zoom, and then we may even figure out like, okay, is the next couple, would they be better suited for Instagram or Facebook? Or yeah, I think I'm interested to see, and I'm really excited to have people like locals that are in on this too, because yeah, I'm finding that I am like kind of surprised how few people are on Facebook these days. But I'm like, we also want to be able to get people plugged into the educational groups and the Facebook groups. And so, yeah, I'm just interested to see, and I'm super interested in feedback from people like Roma and Sneha and, local people here. Like, how do we work with that? Like if we host a Facebook class or something like that, then, how do we reach all of the markets, all of our networks, I guess is the good way to say it.
Right. Yeah, that's just going to be trial and error probably, and just seeing what works for what, and just having a variety of options too, because you're not going to appeal to everybody with just one thing. Like before, it was just everybody. I mean, most people would come to an in-person class, but that's just not how it is now,
Right.
So,
Yeah. So maybe the whole month of January, maybe we're just trying one of each.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I'm all about trying different things to see what works. So I think that's a great approach. Well, I'm excited
Oh, sorry.
for you guys. No, it's fine. I was just saying I'm excited, and I'm here for whatever you guys need. So just know that.
I'm so
We're so
grateful,
grateful.
for all of you, amazing women. I really have to say this, that I'm so grateful that I get to be, around such great women. Thank you so much.
I'm blessed too. So I'm excited to get to know like a whole new culture and new people, and like that's exciting for me. So
You have to come to Jaipur.
I know, I'm like haven't sprung that one on my husband yet, but we'll see.
Just write Jaipur Jaipur on Pinterest, and you would want to come.
Okay.
Pinterest has the best of my city.
It can be like business and pleasure, right? I love that.
Her city really is amazing.
All right, guys. Well, I guess it's the end of our business crash course. And this is just really the beginning though. So I know that you guys are going to have questions and kind of maybe roadblocks that you run into. Like this is just meant to be kind of a good big overall picture just to kind of get you started. But the best thing you can do is just ask a lot of questions. If you have questions, don't just try to figure it out on your own all the time. You use this community. So we're definitely willing and ready to help.
Absolutely. Thanks for giving us so much of your time. And yeah, we're ready to go. Let's do it.
Let's pray. Let's pray for India, right? For Doterra to come sooner rather than later. All right, guys. Well, y'all have a great night / day wherever you are. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much for doing this. Oh, bye.